Hi, and welcome back to our show, Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle. Our first guest today is Helen Mack, and this is part of the series Optimising Outcomes, and today she's talking about taking action. So welcome, Helen.
Thanks, Linda.
Can you just start us off by how people would start taking action?
Sure. So we've talked about creating clarity, we've talked about maximising momentum, and we've talked about maintaining mindset. And all of that is fantastic, but if you're only thinking about it, then nothing's going to change. So without action, all we have is contemplation. And thinking never made anything occur. I think some people get into what I call analysis paralysis. They spend so much time thinking about which should I do and what's the best thing to do that they don't realise that by simply choosing to act, they bring in some power from the universe that somehow supports and helps you then take the next step.
So important, isn't it, for us to think about that overthinking takes over so easily in life.
And it's exhausting because you spend your whole time trying to sort out the priorities and which is the best thing and can I and just asking all these questions that end up with you going into a spiral and nothing happens. And then you start beating yourself up about all the things you should do. I call it shoulding all over yourself. You know, I should do this and I should do that. None of that matters. All you need to do is just take a small positive step forward. And the wonderful thing that happens then is that you get feedback. So you take a tiny step and the universe gives you feedback. That was a great decision, Helen, keep going. Or, oh, I don't think so. And you'll get obstacles and things that make it really, really difficult. And the key piece is to watch for those, to notice those messages and go, this is seeming like it's really, really hard. Maybe I should just pause and take a slightly different direction. So I like to use, this is going to give away my age, but I like to use the example of push starting a car. Now there are going to be some of our viewers who go, what are you talking about? Because you can't push start automatics. But in the days of manual cars, you had to get the car into momentum before you could change direction. You had to take action. You had to put some input in to get an outcome. And it's the same with whatever goals you're at. Your viewers may have noticed, if they've been watching, that I'm a bit of a fan of orange. And the other analogy that I love to use is that you can't get orange juice from an orange by looking at it. You actually have to do something. You have to squeeze. And I think life's a bit like that. You don't get the juice out of life if you don't give it a good squeeze.
On that path where people can get caught up in this positive thinking thing, you were talking about that earlier. What's your take on affirmations and that sort of perspective?
I think that one of the challenges that I have with affirmations is that when a lot of people teach affirmations, they teach you to talk in the current tense about things that are going to happen in the future tense. And I think that a lot of people struggle with that because my brain goes, no, I'm not. You know, I say, I'm tall and fit and healthy, and my little voice says, no, I'm not. So I like if I'm going to make statements about my future, I use action words, verbs, like I'm working towards, or I'm taking steps towards, or I'm becoming, rather than I am. Because my brain fights with me. If I say I am something that I'm working towards, I literally have the little voice going, no, you're not. And so I think that's a problem. Now, I'm an optimist by personality and by trade. That's what I teach the world, is how to be more optimistic. The problem with it, thinking doesn't make anything happen. So, bad news for all of us. We cannot sit on the couch and think positively about the red Ferrari coming down the driveway. It's not going to happen. The piece that's missing is what I call the action imperative. The only way to get that red Ferrari, if that's what you want, is to go out and do something to make that happen. And that's why I love optimism as an approach, because optimism has a built-in action imperative. The word itself, optimism, comes from optimus, which is Latin, the search for the good, the search for the best possible. And again, your viewers may remember that from our first episode. So the search for the best possible outcome is built into optimism. It doesn't mean that we are always sweetness and light and balloons and streamers. It means that we take a realistic look at what's going on. Where am I now? Where do I want to go? What's the best possible route for me to get there? And then what's the action I can take to move me towards that goal?
I love that becoming. Because that's totally relevant for me in my journey. I could always have those arguments with myself, and then the overthinking's more compounded, isn't it?
Correct.
You're not feeling like that. So
No.
how can I be that if I'm not feeling?
Yeah,
like
I can't say I am
No.
when I'm not yet. So I'm becoming is a very powerful change of verb.
So in regard to bigger things and with that possibility thinking, what sort of action can we take towards that to get the best possible scenario?
So I'm going to start with one that your viewers have probably heard before, because I think a lot of people have heard, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Now, I quite like that analogy, except that I also like elephants. So I don't like the idea of eating elephants. I think the key is to take the tiniest possible step to activate what we talked about a couple of sessions ago around maximising momentum. Once we get into action, once we get into movement, like pushing that stalled car, once we get it moving, then we've got the chance to change direction. It's very hard to change direction from being stopped, from being stationary. In any big project, the key is just to take that first tiny step. Once you get that tiny step, you'll get feedback, you'll have a chance to take more steps and more steps. One of my favourite sayings in this area was delivered to me by a very good friend, Max Dixon, and he said, just choose a single, simple, doable thing. Then you know you've done it, and then you can choose another one. Baby steps will still get you there.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks so much, Helen, for joining us in this series. For more information on Helen and optimising outcome and today's taking actions on that, then please go to her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And now we'll go to break and be back with another beautiful guest. Welcome back, and next we have George Gentilis, somatic psychotherapist, and he's back with this week to talk about shifting out of depression. Welcome back, George, again.
Thanks for having me again. Yeah, it's good to be back. Yeah. So this week we're going to be talking about depression, which is the opposite of anxiety. So last week I talked about the hyper state, the hyper arousal, and this week is the hypo arousal. It's when you lock yourself right down. There's no energy, you feel trapped, and then people feel like, oh, I'm depressed, and you just disappear into your body. So it's the opposite of being out there, out of your body, anxious, and can't calm down. With depression, it's total opposite. If you're feeling depressed and down, it means there's not enough movement. You've got to get more movement, you've got to get more active, and you've got to get that fight response out. So you need dumbbells are good, going to the gym is the bench press is great. To just really push out all the suppression that somehow you've created in your life. Some event, something has happened in your life, or a combination of events that have just closed you in, and you see no way out, and you're just locked in. And so people, that's the word depression, where things are depressed and really caved in. Of course, there's always a way out, you just haven't found it. So how do you do it? Get out there, fight more. Boxing's good at the gym. Connect with people is important, because they'll break you out of it as well. Connection's huge with depression, because normally you feel alone and like there's no one to talk to, you don't feel like you can go anywhere. TV's not going to help much, well, it's helping now, I guess, watching this, but normally your TV is not a two-way thing, so you really want connection with people. You find people you can connect with, get out, socialise, move, and know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, is what most depressed people will say. I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. They're locked in, because the fight response, they just haven't been able to push out all this stuff that's come at you. And again, triggers from the environment that bring up childhood experiences, bring up a trauma, and then you feel trapped and you can't break out. Something happened, we don't have to know what. If it's really bad, it can be a suppression of a lot of pain and grief. If you don't release, especially for men, if we don't cry, the depression builds and builds and builds to the point where it feels like, oh, the pain is so great of that grief and that sadness and the hurt, that I'd rather kill myself rather than feel it. So just know it's all it is. It's just pain you can't express. Find someone you can ring and talk who will listen to it, or find a therapist, or get it out in the gym.
You mentioned the gym a couple of times, and
Yeah.
does resistance training work as well as that, or something like bashing a pillow, or you
Yeah,
hear
that's
people
great
talking
too.
about? Is that
Yes.
sort of
Oh, bashing a
another
pillow is
way?
great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it reminded me. That's very good. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, you don't have to go to the gym. You can just go to the bedroom, stack up some pillows, and just hit and put sound to it. Really, when you know no one around is going to hear it, really put some sound to that hurt that's there. And as that hurt comes out, and you let yourself cry, if there's the need to cry, that will relieve it. And then normally what will be under that is anger. Anger for the person or the thing that created that suppression and just boxed you in to the point where you just had no option. The other one it's important to do is to breathe in your chest. I talked about last time about breathing in your belly for anxiety because it's too much chest breathing. Depression's the opposite. It's too much belly breathing. You're too in your belly and there's nothing in the chest. It's literally the chest. When I'm looking at people who are depressed, you'll see it there. You'll have the shoulders hunched over, the concave chest, and people aren't even breathing in their chest. So just breathing in your chest more makes a big difference. Deep chest, forget your belly. If you're depressed, breathe deeply in your chest and put sound to it, and sure enough, it'll be some pain, and then anger underneath that. And as you express that emotion, the energy flows again, you come alive again. It won't hurt as much, so the suicidal tendencies drop off, and then there's more light at the end of the tunnel again. Very powerful. Another good one to use more of your chest is to sing. Sing in the car, out loud. I'll do it often if I'm feeling a bit flat in my chest. Take some breaths, get in the car, put on music loud, and just sing to your favourite music. And very healing, and just belt it out, because that'll release anger as well. Because when you're angry, you're normally loud. The voice is loud. People who are depressed are normally very softly spoken. Yeah, things are fine today. All is good. It's very softly spoken. You got to get that voice up, and to do that, breathe in your chest, sing in the car, go into the bush or whatever, and yell and scream if you have to. Very healthy, and sure there'll be tears, maybe with that, maybe pain or grief. But they both need to be released, and very important. You can't, and you won't, and naturally, if people say just cheer up, that's not going to help. That doesn't help. Doesn't help a depressed person to tell them to cheer up. That's the worst thing you can say. There's so much pain there, so much grief. You want to be able to express that first, and someone needs to be there with you to let you express it, and someone will be neutral. And if it's too deep, that's when you go see a therapist, because your friends can't handle the depth of it, because it's going to trigger them, and then they feel the weight of their stuff coming up. So it's best to see a therapist then if it's really strong, or if it's suicidal, or just deep grief where there's so much pain, and it turns into fibromyalgia, comes from that. A lot of autoimmune systems, a lot of pain in the body, muscular pain. It turns into disease if you don't deal with it. So, and cancer's a big one. That we're linking that to people being too nice. If you look at the characteristic of someone who gets cancer, too nice. You got to get angry. You got to fight and get out there and just face on whatever that thing was that depressed you. Even if you don't know what it is, something's there. Again, mostly from childhood, probably. You got to hit it, fight it, get sound out. Swear if you have to, if there's no one around. And then the energy flows again, and you're breathing back in your chest. Your shoulders can then drop again, chest can come out again, and your posture will improve, and away you go. So very important. Singing is just brilliant. I take singing lessons frequently, and it's a great personal growth thing to do. It's just to get that voice out. So if you want joy, if you want to cheer up, you actually have to feel your pain. And if we look at the emotional states, the duality of emotions, there's three basic emotions. The way I've been trained over the years is the ones that we block is fear, anger, and pain. So if you want to feel joy, you have to feel your pain. They're the opposite side of the same coin. Unless you feel your sadness and your pain, you're not going to feel happy. So just know that if you want peace in your head, peace of mind, to feel safe in the world, you have to express the fear. You can't go around trying to make yourself feel safe when all this fear's there. You have to accept it. And we talked about that at length last time. So
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you, George.
Yeah.
Thank you. And George will be back with us again. And next time he's talking about spirituality and being present. And for more on George and shifting out of depression, then please go to our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. Welcome back, and we have back with us today Tracy Jardim, and she's a raw food advocate, and she's here today to talk to us about weight loss. So, weight loss, Tracy.
That's right, Linda.
Yeah.
Thanks. So far, we've been talking about the gluten content in raw foods and how it's low in gluten. We've also been talking about refined sugars, gut health or digestive health. We've also spoken about how raw food is good for our mind as well as our bodies. And today we're going to talk about weight loss. Okay, so raw food is really low in calories. So that means we can stack our plate with as much raw food as we like, and it's going to fill us up really well. And the other types of food that we might have, like meats and potatoes that are cooked, they contain a lot more calories. So it's important to have more raw food that are low in calories, and that's going to help us lose weight.
How does that work with the calories, that when they're cooked they have more calories than when they're raw?
Well, no, some foods have more calories naturally than raw foods. And well, some people say that when raw foods are cooked, it actually takes away some of the nutrients and enzymes that are contained in the raw food. So we want to keep our food with as many nutrients as we can, because those nutrients are going to impact on our metabolism. We want our metabolism to be working really well so that it helps us to lose weight.
Oh, that's fantastic, fantastic. So what advice could you give for our viewers out there about improving their diet for for weight loss, to help with weight loss?
Well, I would say to our viewers, my top tip would be to have 80% of your plate containing raw foods.
Is that generally speaking? So would you say, like, over a week or over in the general course of things, that it'd be just a balance of 80-20? Would that be the way that it would go?
Absolutely, Linda. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, just everything in moderation is what they say. So if I'm not saying just eat raw food and that raw food is all we should eat, it's important to include it in our diet. For some people, it might be, just a salad on the side of their meal. You might have your steak and you have 3 veg, but also include a salad, and it's really easy. A typical day might look like a smoothie for breakfast, and that's what I do every day. I have a smoothie and I'll throw in some berries and some nuts, some seeds and some good oils like avocado. And then for a snack, I might have a homemade almond meal muffin with berries in it. For lunchtime, might get a piece of lettuce, a lettuce leaf, and fill it with some tuna and some tomato, that sort of thing, and roll it up and then munch on down. And for afternoon tea, might have a handful of nuts. And for dinner, we could have a salad with our meat and veggies.
Oh, great. Oh, well, I'm sure that gives our viewers certainly some guidelines to go along. And for more information on raw food and your weight loss journey, go to our website, health, wellbeing and lifestyle.com.au. And for now, we'll say goodbye and we'll see you back next week.